Hey, welcome back to the Frank Driscoll Show. Special guest, I have Lior Rozhansky. He is an absolute baller from Boston. I've been working with him and coaching him for several years. And thank you so much. Are you pretty excited to be on the show?
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm pretty pumped up.
You didn't think you were going to make it, did you? This isn't easy.
uh, yeah, you always think it'll happen, but when it starts happening, it's always a little different.
Yeah, the one rule that I have is I always want to make sure that the people come on here are absolutely the best. They're the top entrepreneurs. Sometimes they happen to be real estate agents like yourself, or they're top YouTube people or top business people, because what we really want to do is the purpose of the show is for people to help learn and be inspired and some of the greatness. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty exciting and awesome for me to be able to have you on the show. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate.
Yeah, no, and I just want to say, I mean, I can't appreciate this enough. I mean, this is how I learn all my stuff, listening to podcasts like yours, all the other real estate podcasts. So this is amazing. Yeah, the way I got into real estate, so I started, graduated out of college, went into management consulting, worked, kind of the biotech pharma space. It was good money, it was long hours, but, it was pretty good, pretty exciting. I took my plunge by actually I started in the investing space. I bought a multifamily, thought I was the man for buying my first one. And then I kind of, as I got into the game, all I wanted to read about was like real estate. And, so most of my consulting hours, I started like kind of have one screen of my work and one screen of like, how do you buy your next property? And then long story short, I actually ended up, my buyer's agents, we ended up talking a lot, and he kind of convinced me to go in the real estate agent space too. I saw the commission check that he made, and I was like, damn, that's not too bad.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So we ended up kind of merging together, and we started working together, and then kind of the rest is history from there.
Perfect. And just so you guys, just a little more background, since I'm working with him, he just had his best month last month, which was 3 million GCI, and he's built up to it, and he's on pace to finish, if everything breaks well, right around 25 million GCI. And I believe he's only in 2 years in the industry. So he is well on his way to absolutely becoming a beast and a baller in here. So congratulations on that. Now, we first got started coaching like a while ago, correct? What was the experience like having me as your first, really your first coach, and how tough and demanding was it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, I think we were doing pretty good the first year, but we were definitely, but most of the business was prospecting based, and that's why I reached out to you, because you were, that's kind of what you had down, but I didn't realize of the different channels that I was missing out on, because it's easy, it's not that it's easy, but when you're one channel based on prospecting, you gotta kind of grind it out every day, and which is fine. But eventually you want to build out the business where some of the business starts coming to you, right? You don't want to keep chasing business forever. And I guess that's one of the things that I wasn't super comfortable doing. For me, picking up a phone and calling a bunch of people is not that bad. But figuring out how do I create a brand, how do I get people to know me, to attract to me, without me dialing them all the time, it was, kind of my, uncomfortable zone. So that's kind of where I need a little bit of pushing.
Oh, for sure. And keep in mind, one of the things that is definitely amazing about Lior, why I know that he is going to do absolutely amazing in the future, he just does it. Like, there's a lot of people you'll tell to do things, that certainly in coaching, and some we gravitate towards, like the things that we like. When is telling you to do calling or those kind of activities, there's no problem. Even when I started now adjusting to try to get business to come to him, tell us about your experience when I first told you, hey, we're going to create a Facebook group. And, it seemed to me like there was a little, I wouldn't say pushback, but are you sure this is good use of our time? Kind of go through that. And what is your experience now? Are you happy that you put in the effort to build out that community group so that people can be coming to you now? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, it was when you first gave me that idea, I was definitely definitely a lot of pushback on my end. I mean, it's kind of a weird concept at first, and especially when you got to implement it every single day for the first, at least, I mean, I'm probably half a year into it now, a little bit over now, but those first 3 or 4 months where you don't even get people to respond to your invitations or respond to your posts on the group. It's a little like, it's tough, right? I mean, it's not a lot of, we like to be rewarded really quickly, especially as agents. And I get that, so when I kept just posting and inviting people, and maybe if I got a like or a comment, I'd be thrilled. It kind of pushes back on your psyche a little bit. But now that I think we're slowly starting to get over the hump. I mean, we're pushing 1,000 people in the group right now. A lot more engagement, and I think a lot of people are becoming appreciative, right? Which is kind of cool to see. I get a lot of comments like, "Hey, this is like, thanks for showing that. Thanks for showing the different local spots, or thanks for highlighting these updates within the city." So it's cool to see that not only is it the numbers, but it's also true appreciation from the people in your group.
Yeah, and one thing Lior does is he provides a lot of value. I saw some cool ads where he's like, there's one that was like a Superman picture with him that I thought was neat, where he allowed the people to promote their businesses. And, when it started out, when we were sub 100, it's kind of hard to keep going strong in a group like that. But as the closer it gets to 1,000, it starts building up. You can really start to see the value of what you're providing. And it really comes in the form of those feedback when you get the comments from people. I mean, it's such an amazing feeling when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah. And I would say this about like local businesses and stuff. Like, again, obviously the goal eventually would be to get some stream of business. But I think the big thing was like taking a step back and saying, look, I mean, it's unlikely we're going to get business the first 6-12 months, right? I mean, might as well make it a really good platform and, a place where the community can truly engage. So, letting other people advertise, letting other people highlight themselves. I think that kind of started to gain a little bit more traction within the group as well. But yeah, now seeing them engage constantly, especially when I put in developments, not only about, not only local businesses, but like, there's tons of development in the Boston area. So I try to update them about that as well. And people are kind of slowly starting to like really appreciate it and, account for that, which is nice.
And it's going to be awesome as it continues to grow. One of the things that you've also implemented that was great is you really kind of built out a YouTube channel alongside it. Why don't you tell us your experience about that, what it's like to start it up and to grow, to slowly get better, and what are some of the kind of things that you're doing on your YouTube channel that's really helping engagement?
Yeah, so YouTube it's still definitely a work in progress. And I gotta say, when you first started telling me like, hey, you should probably shoot some video, I think like 99% of agents, I was like, oh, crap. Like, do I really have to do this? And it's obviously awkward at first. Like, you gotta stick a camera in front of your face. It's always gonna be a little uncomfortable, but I slowly got pretty good at it. I'm able to like project nicely and all that stuff. But then it's then you gotta, like you always say, right? You kind of keep growing within what you're doing. So then it was starting to elevate my game beyond just like a phone in my face. So then that's when we got the drone, right? We started investing in a drone, started doing like really nice community overviews. And I think, and now we're really kind of ramping that part of those videos up. And I think people are really starting to kind of notice the quality, right? I'm starting to get a lot more feedback about how it's, there's a truly like impactful videos, right? Which, business or not, that's always what you want, right? You don't want to just throw junk at the world. I mean, you do want it to, you do want valuable content that people truly do enjoy at the end of the day.
Perfect. And I've seen it. He's gradually improved. He's getting intros, getting interesting shots. He has a great relationship with like the business owners and the community. I think I've seen some parade footage, different stuff, and so
yeah, that was fun.
I think you do a great job of complementing your Facebook group, like where they go hand in hand. And when you're able to talk to people, you've got many different avenues, right, to offer value. So you can invite them into your Facebook group. You can get them subscribed to your YouTube channel, right? And all of these things build off, as well as capturing their emails with newsletters and the other things. But even when you're doing this, what are you also doing on your now business? Kind of describe like your typical day of what you're doing during the week to help get these kind of numbers and the business that you're doing.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, when getting into these kind of things that are not comfortable, I mean, I got to give a shout out to my partner. He's the one that's kind of the man behind the drone and all the editing. I mean, I can't figure that stuff out for the life of me. I'm kind of, I really like to so my point is, if you're thinking about doing that, see if you have a partner, obviously that's great, but see if you can somehow leverage that, whether it's the editing or the shooting, if you're not good at it. I think that's huge. And then in terms of I really like to balance my day between, today business versus long-term business. That's kind of how I view my day, right? You always want to, you obviously want to pay the bills today, but it's also all about how can I expand my brand so that next month, next year, in the next 2 years, I can be dominant in that market. And for me, my now business, I will say it's really pretty dominant on prospecting, right? So we do a lot of circle, a lot of expireds. My first year I did a lot of FSBOs as well. And then my partner, he works a lot of buyers. He's got a great referral network. He gets tons of business that way. So those are really our two dominant channels. The other channel that we kind of have found some success as of late, especially, Boston, like I said, Boston's a very active development market. So we got real comfortable working with developers. And we started putting deals together for, flippers and developers, which is nice because, again, it's kind of like a long-term investor client where you do one transaction and it can lead to, other listings. It can lead to repeat business with that client. So yeah, those are really the three spokes, we concentrate on for today business.
Let's talk about your investors. When we started, you kind of had an investor group that you're working with. Gives the viewers kind of like, what was your approach? What were you saying to them, or how are you finding these investors? For those that are watching, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, honestly, I get a lot of these questions like, hey, how do I connect with all these cash buyers? The fancy thing is to say the cash buyers or the investors. And to be honest, that's not the hard part, right? You can throw, I think this would probably hold true in most marketplaces. You throw up on Craigslist and that says, hey, I have a sweet deal for an investor. You'll probably get 1,000 emails. There's your email list, right? That's not the hard part. For me, it was nice because, like I said, before I hopped into the agent business, I was networking with investors because that's how I hopped into it. So I already did have a nice little platform and a lot of contacts. But what I would say is really focus on obviously getting the deal, right? But one thing that a lot of people don't think about is I actually also network with other agents in my marketplace, right? Because a lot of the investor deals I've done, I didn't actually have, the quote unquote deal. I wasn't directly with the owner. But when you work with other agents in your marketplace, right? And this is where it's kind of mentality, a lot of people think well, the next agent is your competition. I don't view it like that, right? I try to build a network of agents that I know have off-market deals, right? Because when they have a sweet deal that they don't have a developer for, boom, they reach out to me and I can put the deal together.
Nice, and that's definitely gives you a distinct advantage over a lot of other agents, because I agree with you. A lot of people look at agents only as competition instead of utilizing those networks that you can create where there's win-win scenarios, and they can go to you for when they need it, when they have a deal they're reaching for, and vice versa. And that's something that I think kind of sets you apart from a lot of people out there just don't think in those terms. So it's awesome on that. What has been your greatest failure so far, and what has it taught you?
A lot to list.
Just pick one.
I think some of the biggest failures we've had, it's easy to say, it's easy for me to point out some deals that, we should have had. I think from a business perspective, those failures, especially when you see a listing that you talk to the seller and then you see them list with someone else, it's really taught us to try and put better systems in place in terms of follow-up, and this is kind of all kind of groups together with the community group and everything. It's just adding value to the people that we're dealing with, right? Because, it's especially in a marketplace like Boston, where there's tons and tons of agents, you really got to figure out how do you differentiate yourself and how can you provide more value than the next broker, right? So what I've really been focusing on after I saw me on losing out on some listings I really should have had, is really focusing on how do I implement myself? How do I implement my differentiation? So how do I implement these YouTube videos, the Facebook groups, and how do I really make myself stick out? So that's really what I would say is those all those listings accumulated that I lost. It really made me think on how do I make sure this doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Now, here's a little follow-up question. If you think you went on those same listings right now, do you feel confident that you have a much better chance to be able to land those now?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We wouldn't let them slip. We'd have better, we'd have other ways to nurture them besides just say calling, right? Calling or sending a piece of direct mail. That's what we typically did. But now I actually invite clients and prospects into my Facebook group. I invite them into my YouTube channel, and it's just a multi-channel way of nurturing leads that otherwise might have slipped if in between the monthly calls that I had set up for them.
great job. And I love those improvements. I mean, it's clear cut, like the difference that I'm able to see from the beginning to now. Tell us a little bit about your past client relationships and the event that you just recently put on. Even though I know there was a little bit of rain, but I love to tell the viewers what you did.
Yeah, I mean, past client relationships is probably it wasn't my strength. And that was one of the things I really wanted to work on, because, you spend so much time servicing a client and, I will, you can ask my clients, I will go out, I will do basically anything, right? Like I will do whatever it takes for them. And it stinks not keeping communication with them. So yeah, we planned out an awesome event where we actually, we rent out a space at a boat club. And then just had like a bunch of food and had the whole place open for them the whole day. I learned another valuable lesson because the day we selected, of course, there was like a massive hurricane and rainstorm. So we got basically washed out. I mean, we still had like 10 or 15 people show up, but the lesson learned, always have plan B in case that happens.
Right.
Yeah. But that's one of the things we're definitely going to be much more stringent about implementing, because again, you spend so much time with these clients, not only earning the business, then going through the transaction. And again, it's just another way of showing my appreciation. Because I do. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. I mean, I do appreciate their business, really do. So I want to give back to them as much as I can.
How was the feedback from the people that you were inviting or the ones that attended the event? Did you sense that this definitely, they were appreciative of what you're doing and that they're going to be your clients for life?
Oh yeah. I mean, once you throw good events like that, I think it's hard for clients not to not to appreciate that. Anyone that came, I mean, we know those are going to be our long-term clients. And honestly, even for the people that just RSVP'd, and obviously didn't want to go into a hurricane to a boat club, which I can't blame them. I probably would have done the same.
Right.
It's nice to see them like RSVPing, and we have I think like 50 or 60 RSVPs, so it's nice to see those accumulate pretty quickly. Yeah.
Perfect. Great job on that too. Hey, what drives you to keep going when it really gets tough, when you just don't feel like doing it, like the grind, whether calling or doing your day-to-day, or how do you keep going when you reach that limit?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, it's got to be a combination of multiple things. I mean, for me, when I jumped into the real estate business, it was basically like do or die, right? Because I essentially cold turkeyed and got out of the consulting business. So I had to make it. And I have some pretty stringent goals for myself. So it starts with my morning routine, right? I always review my goals. I visualize a lot, and it kind of gets me set every day. And trust me, I mean, there's days when, I tend to call almost every single day. At least I try to get at least an hour of prospecting in. And sometimes it really, really stinks. But when you kind of look at your goals, and when you're like, look, if this is what's separating you from the next step, it becomes a pretty convincing argument, right? I mean, you either do this or you're going to be out of the business. So I think it might be a simple. It might sound simple, but I think when the goals are truly ingrained in you, and when you really see the vision of where you want to be within the next 1 to 2 years, I think the actions are pretty natural.
Got it. And you create those habits, and you're just used to doing it, and you just keep going. What about non-negotiable? Is there anything that you're just not willing to make that trade-off, no matter what it is? Anything in your business that you're unwilling to do?
Yeah, I think I said I'm basically prospect every single day. I think I maybe missed 2 or 3 days the last half a year. I mean, I try to jump on the phones, because for me it's and again jump and on the phones for me it's nice because I've kind of developed another business where or grown the investment business as well. So for me, prospecting really drives both businesses, right? I can get leads for my retail listing business, or I can get leads for my acquisitions business. So, since it's such a key component of both of my businesses, it's really a non-negotiable for me. If I don't do it, then my business doesn't grow that day.
What's been your biggest aha moment or epiphany that in the last few years where you're just like, wow, and that really led to just a big game changer for you that you've kind of discovered on this journey so far?
Yeah, I think there's two. One was definitely the social aspect that we talked about. Like I said, my first year, me and my partner, where we did about just under 20 million. A lot of it was just grinded out work. Calling every single day, like feet on the ground, no stopping, and not that I'm not willing to do that. I'm still basically doing that on year 2 as well, and I'm sure I'm going to be doing that year 3. But I do want to start building out that brand side, right, where I can attract other people to me rather than me always be on other people, right? Because at the end of the day, one of my long-term visions, I'd love, I'm growing a team now as well. I've got a couple of agents with me. I'd love to be able to provide them business, not only for myself but for them, right? So I got to figure out a way where leads are not only getting either purchased or us calling them, but they're inflowing to us, so that we can continue to grow.
Perfect. What advice would you give to an agent, let's say a new agent that's watching this and just starting out? What would be your biggest takeaways that you could give to them?
And the biggest thing is just learn. I know it's probably everyone says that, but for the last 2 years, every time I'm in my car, I'm always listening to Audible podcasts or something. That you're never gonna get everyone's like, well, I've heard the same thing over and over again. Well, that's the point, right? Is there's no real sexy, secret or anything like that. But if you can take just one little thing from each podcast, and that's what I look for, right? Is just one little thing I can implement, change, whether it's like a type of email or follow-up. I always try to implement something from each podcast or book I learn or a book I read. So really ingrain yourself 100% of the business, because it is a brutal business, right? I don't know what the stats, I'm sure it's a high stat of how many agents fail out, but it can be a really brutal business. So you really got to be on top of your game every single day, at least for the first couple of years, to really get your foot in the door.
No, it's perfect. I think that's great advice. And, if you can just improve 1%, every day, every week, just take something, be open to it and try it out and see if it can improve your business. Now, just for you guys to know, if you guys have any referrals or business or thinking about joining up with a great team in Boston, I can highly recommend Lior. I know personally what an outstanding job he does for his clients. I get to hear his success stories, every week, honestly, and to watch and see where he's built this up and been really building out. We'll put his links below, so you can check out, his YouTube channel, and you can check out his Facebook group, and you can reach out to him, email or hit him up with a call if you've got anything. But is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Anything else that you would like to say to them?
Yeah, the other core philosophy, the one thing I'll also leave off is just because I'm such a strong believer in it. Again, I got into real estate because of investing, and I see so many agents that actually do, even that do well and perform really well, never can really take the leap because they don't invest, right? And that's kind of been one of my core philosophies of our team, is I'm really trying to ingrain, not only becoming obviously an awesome listing, listing agent, buyer's agent, becoming the top broker, but also really figuring out how to play the game, because we have a competitive advantage if you look at it from a grand scheme of things, right? We're in the trenches every day. We talk to buyers and sellers. We see a lot of these deals come before we give it to anyone. So, you know, figuring out how to take the next step beyond just, well, how do I grow my income, is how do I grow, you know, even though it sounds corny, it's how do I grow my wealth, right? And that's been one of my driving philosophies is, you know, I take most of my money that I make goes right out the door back into real estate. I stay pretty broke. You know, so I think a lot, especially if you live in, you know, major markets that have seen so much growth, don't only focus on the income, but keep your eyes on other opportunities, especially since you're in the game every single day.
Thank you so much. What great advice, guys. So hit him out if you have questions on that. I'm sure you can reach out to him, and he'll be more than happy to help you out and explain even further if you have those, or obviously if you're looking for investment opportunities where he's at, I'm sure he can help you out. But thank you so much, Lior. It's been a pleasure and honor. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, check out the next videos. Put some comments on here, please. Those help so we can answer any questions you have. And we will see you on the next show. Thanks so much and take care. Bye-bye.